The darkness has a way of unearthing our deepest fears, whispering secrets that linger long after the night fades. These 10 true stories, drawn from the raw edges of human experience, plunge us into moments where the ordinary twists into the unthinkable. From quiet homes to desolate streets, these tales reveal the chilling reality that danger, and the unexplained, can lurk just beyond our sight. Brace yourself for a journey through terror, where each story leaves a mark, a lesson, and a haunting question that refuses to be answered. At 21, I was a college student savoring the quiet of my parents' upscale home, nestled beside a small pond in a wealthy neighborhood. The properties were sprawling, the neighbors distant, and the town park across the water was a silent backdrop to our secluded life. My parents, wealthy enough to own multiple homes, were often away, leaving me alone in the grand house. It was a humid summer night, the kind where the air clings to your skin, and I was curled up in the sunroom, my favorite spot, with its open windows catching the breeze off the pond. The TV glowed softly, casting shadows as I watched a show, lost in the comfort of routine. Then, a sound broke the calm, splashing from the pond, sharp and rhythmic, like something heavy moving through the water. I dismissed it as geese or ducks. They'd squabble sometimes, their fights echoing across the still surface. But the splashing didn't stop. It grew louder, more deliberate, too heavy for wildlife. Curiosity tugged at me. I lowered the TV volume, pressed my ear to the window, and listened. The splashes were unmistakable now, paired with a low, eerie humming, a man's voice, drifting through the night. My heart quickened. Each house owned a slice of the pond, and this intruder was on our property, trespassing in the dark. I stepped onto the deck, the wooden boards creaking underfoot, and peered into the pitch-black backyard. The humming and splashing intensified, a chilling confirmation of a human presence. I flicked on the deck lights, their glow cutting through the darkness, illuminating a sliver of the pond. Instantly, the sound stopped, as if the intruder had seen me. I froze, wondering if it was a neighbor, unlikely, as no one swam in that murky water. Fear overrode curiosity. I wasn't about to confront whoever was out there. I retreated inside, locked the door, and turned off the lights, my pulse racing. Back in the sunroom, I tried to focus on the TV, but the glow felt like a beacon in the night, exposing me. I texted my brother, away at college, but got no reply. The unease grew, gnawing at my focus. Then, a new sound, soft footsteps on the deck, deliberate and close. I fumbled for the remote, shutting off the TV, plunging the room into darkness. Silence followed, thick and oppressive, until I heard it, heavy breathing, just outside the window. My body went cold. I dropped flat onto the couch, heart hammering, hoping to vanish into the shadows. Then, a deep voice cut through the quiet, "I see you." The words sank into me like ice. Panic surged, but I clung to a desperate hope. "Paul, is that you?" I blurted, naming a neighbor, praying it was a cruel prank. No response? Only the sound of barefoot steps fading into the night. I lay there, paralyzed, for what felt like hours, until the need to secure the house pushed me to act. I bolted to the front door, locked. The side entrance, locked. Relief was fleeting. I texted my family, my fingers trembling, and my dad, ever practical, urged me to check the backyard again, to be the man of the house. With a kitchen knife in hand, I peered through the window. The deck was empty, but wet, barefoot footprints trailed across it, half-dried in the humid air. I followed them to the edge, where a sight burned into my memory, 2 eyes and a forehead, peering over the deck's rim, staring right at me. The figure ducked as our eyes met, vanishing into the darkness. I called 911, locking myself inside until the police arrived. They swept the property but found no one. Questions about enemies or problematic neighbors yielded nothing. That night, I closed every window, cranked the air conditioning, and waited for dawn. The sunlight brought relief, but no answers. The man never returned, but the fear lingers, a reminder that some threats watch from the shadows, and safety is never guaranteed. Music fades. I walk my dog 3 times daily, morning, afternoon, and late at night. Always along the same route, out the driveway, through the cul-de-sac, and into the parking lot of our condo complex. The lot is unlit, so I carry a flashlight, and I listen to music through one AirPod, keeping an ear free for anything unusual. It's a habit born of caution, one that had never failed me until one night, when the familiar became terrifying. It was a late walk, the air cool and still, my dog sniffing along as I zoned out to my music. As we neared the parking lot, a sound broke through, a voice, faint but distinct, ahead of me. I stopped, pulled out my AirPod, and listened. Silence. I chalked it up to my imagination and kept walking, but an uneasy feeling settled in my gut. Then, it came again, a muffled voice, saying help. It sounded like a child, but something was off, too flat, too hollow. My heart dropped. I swept my flashlight across the lot, its beam catching the glint of parked trucks and SUVs, but no one was there. Just me and my dog, who seemed oblivious, sniffing bushes nearby. The voice repeated, 3 more times, always help, always from the left, where the cars loomed large. It wasn't a cry, but a statement, unchanging in tone, like a recording. My dog's ears perked, his head turning toward the sound, confirming it wasn't in my head. Panic gripped me. The voice wasn't quite a child's, it had an adult's depth, a chilling blend that didn't belong. I wanted to investigate, to help, but fear screamed louder. I ran home, my dog bounding beside me, and told my mom. She was puzzled but dismissed calling the police, suggesting it was nothing. I couldn't shake it. Was someone trapped in a car? Or was it a lure, something darker waiting for me to get closer? The lot's layout, large vehicles, no clear view, made it impossible to know. To this day, that voice haunts me, its eerie tone a reminder that some calls for help might hide a trap. Music fades. Growing up, depression was my constant shadow, especially as a kid in a house surrounded by dense woods. Our home, isolated by a forest, felt like a fortress of solitude. My room, in the back corner, was large but eerie, its windows facing the dark trees. At 10, in 5th grade, I was too old to sleep with my parents after nightmares, but the dark still terrified me. That's when the strangeness began. My nightlight, set to a comforting red glow, was my anchor. One night, I woke abruptly to find it blue. Exhausted, I dismissed it and slept. A week later, it was green. I asked my parents, but they called it glitchy, brushing off my concern. Then, one morning, it was unplugged, lying on the floor. My dad said I was too old for it, but I knew I hadn't touched it. Days later, it vanished entirely. I accused my parents of taking it, sparking a fight. They insisted they hadn't, but I didn't believe them. Normalcy returned briefly, until I started waking nightly, no reason, just a jolt of unease. One night, I stayed awake and heard rustling in my closet. My parents checked, nothing but toys and posters. For 4 nights, the rustling persisted, each sound chipping away at my sanity. I begged them to believe me. My dad, frustrated, dragged me to the closet, tossing toys aside to prove it empty. Then he pulled down a poster, revealing a gaping hole in the wall. My mom screamed. My dad's flashlight showed a tunnel, too deep to see its end. Outside, he found a small hole in the dirt at the house's base, a passageway from the woods to my room. We fled to my aunt's that night and moved out soon after. My parents, racked with guilt, refused to discuss it. Someone had been in my room, night after night, for over a month. Their intentions remain a mystery, but the violation lingers, a lesson to trust a child's fears. Music fades. I'm Leo, a college senior adrift, estranged from my family and hometown. Last year, I was in Berlin, searching for purpose. One night, at a bar called Ruya, I realized my apartment keys were gone. It was late, raining, and I had no way in. Defeated, I sought shelter under a bridge, the river's murmur a faint comfort. As I drifted off, voices across the water snapped me awake. 5 men stood by a tied-off boat, exchanging briefcases and duffel bags, a drug deal, clear as day. My German was shaky, but their actions spoke volumes. I froze, hoping to stay unseen. Then, one shouted, a gun flashed, and a man was stripped of his clothes, pleading rapidly. Fear gripped me. I stood to leave, but a shout, "There's someone there," sent me running. "Don't shoot," echoed behind me. Drunk and exhausted, I collapsed at a house, begging to use their phone. I called 911, led police back, but the apartment was empty, as if no one had been there. They suspected gang activity, but no arrests followed. That night, I realized how close I'd come to death, a fleeting brush with fate, I'll never forget. Music fades. High school was rough, with foster parents who made home a battleground. One Friday, walking with my friend Emma, I ducked into the school bathroom. It was oddly empty, usually bustling. In a stall, I heard the door open and close, but no footsteps followed. I assumed someone was hiding, maybe from an admin, and continued reading the graffiti-covered walls. The door opened again, I thought they'd left. But when I exited, Emma's face was pale, her eyes wide. "Who was behind you in the stall?" she asked. I insisted I was alone, but she swore she'd seen someone, their shoes touching mine, so close it was unnatural. She'd entered seconds before me, and no one else had passed through. The admin dismissed it, but Emma's serious gaze convinced me something paranormal had been there. That moment haunts me still. Music fades. Fresh into my first big job, I rented a small house from Michelle, a kind landlord. Weeks in, late-night knocks began. The first time, I called out, "Who is it?" No answer. I didn't open the door. The next morning, a note on the storm door read, "Hello, beautiful." I crumpled it, hoping it was a one-off. That night, another knock, earlier, while I cooked. Silence followed. The next morning, a new note, "I like to watch you." My blood ran cold. I told my parents. My retired cop dad said police couldn't act without catching someone. I left a note stating Michelle didn't live there, hoping to deter the stalker. It didn't. The next note read, "I'm not looking for Michelle. I'm looking for you, my name. I like watching you." My dad came, and we called the police, who patrolled but found no one. I moved out, shaken, never knowing who it was. Music fades. In college, frustrated with frat life, I tried Tinder and matched with Yell. We met at Tap House, played pool, and got drunk. She sent explicit photos, and I reciprocated, too drunk to question why. She invited me to her Oakland apartment, a red flag I ignored. Inside, the lights flicked on, revealing 3 imposing men, not Yell. They knew my name, birthday, and that Yell was 17, threatening to expose me unless I dealt drugs for them. They took my phone, wallet, and keys, demanding a list of student contacts. Seizing a moment, I ran, escaping to a house where I called 911. The police found the apartment empty, suspecting gang activity, but no arrests were made. I swore off dating apps, haunted by how close I came to ruin. Music fades. A smoker with a wrecked sleep schedule, I'd stand on my balcony nightly, overlooking my secluded neighborhood. A neighbor's navy blue BMW was a constant, but one night, a black van appeared. It returned nightly, sparking my curiosity. One early morning, I saw my neighbor load a heavy black bag into it, moving cautiously. Intrigued, I followed the van to a deserted gas station in the woods, where I broke a window, triggering an alarm. I fled, called 911, and the next day, police arrested my neighbor. They shared no details, and the road to the station was later blocked. The bag's contents remain a chilling mystery. Music fades. Post-breakup, I lived with my roommate, Trish, the July heat kept at bay by a loud AC unit. One night, I dreamed of a horned, clawed creature at a silent family dinner. It loomed over me, and I woke, heart racing, in my dark room. The next night, my door was open, unusual, as I always closed it. Trish hadn't entered. Another nightmare followed, the creature, closer, scratching my thigh. I woke, feeling a sting, and found a real gash. Trish and I searched my bed, finding nothing sharp. Turning off the AC, we heard a sound under my bed. We fled, called 911 from a neighbor's, and heard our door slam. The police found no one, but the gash and open door convinced me an intruder had been in our home, mirrored by my nightmares. Music fades. At 6 or 7, I shared a sprawling upstairs bedroom with my brother Luke in our Long Island home, once an apartment for a tenant. A toy race car, with buttons for lights and sounds, was a favorite. One night, it blared to life, lights flashing, terrifying me. Luke laughed, denying involvement. Weeks later, a thud and the car's lights woke us again. I ran to my parents, who dismissed it. When Luke was away, the car rolled into my room, lights on, from across the hall. I screamed, and my parents found no one. The toy couldn't move on its own. My dad smashed it, but the incident cemented my belief in the paranormal. These stories, etched in the memories of those who lived them, remind us that fear can emerge from the mundane, and the unknown is never far away. They teach us to trust our instincts, question the ordinary, and carry the weight of the unexplained into the light.